2. Unity structure. Projects. The name of the software gives us a hint of its purpose: uniting assets together into one project. You cannot create models, textures, or even scripts within Unity. All these things are called assets and must be brought in from other applications. They're all stored within a Unity project. Let's create one now. We can import these things here, called packages, later if we like, but we want to start from scratch, so leave all of them unchecked. A Unity game is to a Unity project as a square is to a rectangle, so when someone refers to a Unity project, they are referring to the entirety of the work. In most scenarios, the entire game will reside in your project directory. Unlike most 3D modeling packages such as Maya, Blender, 3D Studio Max, Modo, etc., most of the assets in Unity are not confined to mostly a single file, but are fragmented throughout a folder hierarchy in your project directory. There are several folders here: Library, Temp, Project Settings, and Assets. Don't touch the first three. Unity uses those to store info about your project, and it chains it together. Deleting these folders is not recommended and can break this connection chain and cause problems in your project. Library and Project Settings will save information about your project which are unique to each one. You can delete the temp folder after you close Unity, but it's best to let the program clean up itself. Initializing these three folders is what Unity is doing behind the scenes when it's rebooting. For the entirety of this course series, we'll be mostly concerned with only one folder: Assets. You might now be thinking, I understand that Unity stores project settings in a separate folder, but why not store everything in one file, like modeling packages do? I mean, they also have 3D models, textures, a renderer. What's the difference? Well, in film, you don't need all the mocap data, 3D models, textures, and footage from all scenes in one folder to composite it all together. The rules are the opposite in the antipode world of game development. Unity is very strict about this, as I will demonstrate next and explain why. Scenes. As we learned earlier, Unity relegates most of the content creation to third-party packages. Some things, however, you can only create inside the package itself, like materials or lights. When I create a material, it will be created as a separate file. When I create a light, however, it does not. Both of them can be created within Unity, but there are two major differences. This is because the light is scene-specific. For example, its coordinates in one scene would be useless in another. The material, on the other hand, is recyclable and can be used not just in several scenes, but in several projects. Think of a scene as a level. You may load levels within one level, you may load scenes within another scene. A level in this case is a scene. Scenes can also be used for other purposes, for example testing your code. Instead of compiling the entire project and then finding errors in unknown places, testing in units will help isolate the problem from the beginning. Remember to save. You should keep all of your scenes within the Assets directory, preferably within a separate folder. All scenes are assets, just like materials, 3D models, and textures. Now let's look at its anatomy. Game objects and their components. Let's go a level deeper. Before we were looking at scenes within projects, now we will see game objects within scenes. Unfortunately, I cannot use our favorite analogy for describing game objects, but don't worry, I have another one, and it's even more imperfect, so get ready. Each scene consists of a hierarchy of game objects. Which are the atoms of its composition. You can add components to each game object, which would make your game object a different analogous atom of an element. Remember that light we made? Remove the component and it's just an empty game object. A cylinder? Same. A script? Also a component. An important component in Unity is a collider. This is a geometrical shell around a game object that can register interaction, either with a mouse, touch, or other in-game colliders. We will get to them later. To change the element of the atom, we add components via the Component File menu. Unity links your assets to your game objects. If I attach our material to a cylinder, Unity will note this information in its knowledge chain. I have linked the material, which is an asset, to a cylinder, which is a game object with a mesh filter and renderer components. If I then delete that material from the project directory, or even rename it, Unity will color that cylinder pink, stating that the connection was lost, something was there that is not there anymore. Changing it back will restore that connection. This is as true for materials as it is for any other asset game object link. Things such as missing scripts, you won't see any color indication, these things will be noted in the inspector. The inspector will be discussed in the next segment. Your project information can be bundled together and exported as a Unity package. Recap. A Unity project directory contains information about itself and all of its assets. Once you've made your app, you need to compile it into an executable, which will require all of the assets in one directory. There are two reasons for this setup for compilation. One, you don't really want to hand someone a game where they can easily break everything by deleting random folders. Two, unless you're a one-man show, you will use assets from another member, be it scripts or textures. Imagine working in one Blender or Maya file with a lot of people. There's no way to separate who's doing what, and how would you update each other's work? Syncing the files is often relegated to another program which does something called version control. Version control is a way to archive different versions of files so you may collaborate with others without constantly sending a zipped folder of each other's work. Cool. Next, we're going to look at what I constantly keep saying we'll look at next, the UI.